Okay, guys, as you probably can hear, I'm not a native English American speaker, but I'm from Europe. You can just try to guess which country, but I will do my best to make this understandable. So in this talk, I would like to address a problem which regards actually a lot of people. It is hyperhidrosis, which is excessive sweating. This I'm looking at sweathelp.org on the condition overview, and it says here from a study based on data published in 2016, there were approximately 15.3 million individuals, or 4.8% of the population living with hyperhidrosis in the US. So that's almost 5% of the population. So this is a really nasty condition, actually, for those who suffers from it, because it really reduces the quality of living for many people, and especially in like social settings and in relationships. So this can be like sweating of the hands, sweating of the armpits, sweating of the body, like wet clothes, sweating of the forehead, the face. So you can just imagine if you're like sitting in a meeting at the work and your like nose is dripping of sweat. That's very embarrassing. It's very social awkward, and it's really like it's really like a social handicap, because maybe the people around doesn't think that much about it, even though they notice it. But the guy or the girl who suffers it really thinks about it, and it's like massively. It's a massive toll on the psyche, on like the emotional health for many people. And it really can take a toll on like self-confidence and like feelings about yourself, you know. So there are a few treatment options, and it often starts with like different like antiperspirant deodorants, which is like supposed to stop the sweat coming out from the pores, you know, to block the pores. And there are also, and there are like many variations of that kind of treatments, like things you can put on the body. And the second option for many people is like Botox injections. And I think that might be very effective, because it inhibits the sweat glands in the local area. So the doctor or nurse have to inject Botox locally to stop the sweat there, and it's done with like a very small needle, and it's many punctions in the skin, many places. For example, in the forehead, for example, in the hands, in the palms, and so on. So that might be a very effective treatment for some people. And the third treatment is like operations of different kinds. Some people like actually remove the sweat glands from, for example, under the arms, like surgically. They cut them out. And I also think there is like this freezing technique. I'm not sure about that, but I think I read that someplace. And also you have this cutting of the nerve with, I think it's called like is it endoscopy? Thoracoscopy or something? It's let me check this out. because they make like a small in let's see, yeah, thoracic sympathectomy, endoscopy. Yeah, they go in with like this small surgical. They cut up the skin by like the armpit or something, and they go in and cut the nerve, which also is supposed to stop both sweating and blushing from like the armpits or the nipples and up. But I heard about this treatment years ago, like 20 years ago or something, almost, and it may have some problematic by-effects, which like is the excessive sweating can come other places, and yeah, so I think it's like just intuitively, it's not. It doesn't seem very. It seems very invasive, like very invasive treatment to go inside the body and cut some nerves. So yeah, I'm a bit skeptical to that one, but probably a lot of people also gets good help from that treatment. But yeah, anyways, so I just wanted to talk about a little bit about this issue because yeah, it's really fucked up, you know. Because it really like it can ruin people's self-confidence and self-esteem, and it's such a debilitating condition. Because say if you're going to meet the parents of your girlfriend or something, and you're afraid to go to the dinner because you're always on the verge to start like sweating, like drip sweating, you know. And this takes so much focus from other joyful, positive, constructive things you can do or talk about. So it's like it's a condition which really takes up a lot of space for the sufferers, and it shows correlations with anxiety and depression and low self-esteem, as I mentioned, and like it's a problematic condition, really. So and it's like it's also like a very invisible condition in some way, because maybe the people around don't think it's such a big deal, because okay, so you sweat a little bit, so what? But in the situation when this is playing out, this is a real fucking problem. So because you are like you are like disadvantaged socially. That's maybe a good way to put it. You're like socially disadvantaged. So even though you are like a good person, you're like straight through the best guy ever, and you have no bad intentions or anything, or you like your shit on work, like true, and you there's really nothing stopping you except that the anxiety around the embarrassment from such like sweating, or also blushing, but I think sweating is way worse, because like blushing, okay, so you're red in the face, so what? I understand that also it can be very problematic, but when it starts dripping sweat from your head and nose, that's that's not that easy to just ignore, you know. And yeah, so it's like a really sad condition, and it's destructive for so many other things in life. So yeah, so I really hope that the people suffers this get the proper help, really. And as I mentioned, there are a few treatment options with like different like things you can put on the skin, like antiperspirant deodorants and stuff like that, which is like, I think it's probably like low to moderate effective. I don't know like exact the numbers, but probably it probably helps some people. And then the Botox, which I think is maybe moderate to high effective, maybe high effective. And then you have like the surgical interventions, which probably have a high effectiveness, but it's also very invasive to the body. So maybe not removing of the sweat glands. That's might not actually be that invasive, because you only go in like the tissue, like in like not, you don't go that deep in the body. You don't cut nerves in the same way as you do with this endoscopy, where you like cut off the nerves that go up to whatever goes up to the neck or something. So I really want to try to talk a little bit about this, because it's a painful condition. It ruins a quality of life, and it's very sad. It's very, very sad. And I think like the sad thing about this is as I mentioned, you can like have so many good qualities. You can be like you can be so good at work. You can have so much to offer socially, but this really can screw things up, because it fucks up your self-esteem in the situation. And I also think, as I mentioned, it's like easy for other people to like minimize the problem. Because what's the big deal? You like sweat a little bit, but for the sufferer, it can be a really, really big deal. And it also you have to think about it in like a life perspective, how things evolve through a life. Because of course you start at primary school, and you go the way through like the levels in the school system, whatever country you may be in. And if you always lose in the social situation through your life will have a different path, because you don't apply for that school because you're afraid for the interview, for example. Okay, so you didn't go to the best school. You didn't go to the school where you actually could have been going to, because you were afraid, like anxiety for maybe the sweating. And the next step, you maybe don't do as well in an exam. You don't get the grades that you actually you have the capacity to get, because you're afraid, of course, So and not of course, but you're afraid because of the condition, because of this like physical and also psychological, of course, problem. And that's how it goes. The point is, if you like lose in every interaction, if you feel bad self-esteem, bad confidence after, because of this, again and again and again and again and again through life, like in school, in university, in your first job, in your next job, in your how you meet girls, how you meet friends, choice of girls, choice of job. That it does have an impact on your life in the long run. So of course you can overcome this in many ways. You can overcome it by like just really owning it, but it's really hard. It's really hard. And you can overcome it by compensating with other things. You can like adjust your activities to things that works for you. But that also is it's a loss, because there are things you want to do and you want to be good at, and because of the dripping sweat and like wet clothes, you're like it's a handicap somehow. It stops you from, it can stop you from a few things. So this video is like I want to address the severity of the problem here for the people who suffers. And I think we just have to acknowledge that as I said, like 5% in the US suffers from this in a variety of the degree probably varies. And this actually reminds me, I actually met a guy on a work site for this is 15 years ago or something, and he was soaking in sweat, and he wasn't working like physically even. He was like just walking around with other guys, and he was soaking. He was like, it was dripping sweat from his head, from his face, from his body. And I think like, poor fucking guy, you know. It's so fucking social awkward, and like nobody says anything. It's like, because you can be so silently. It's like the elephant in the room, you know. Like everyone sees it, but nobody says anything. But the guy who suffers, like, oh fuck, feels it really bad. So yeah, you know. I really hope people who suffer from this find the right way to deal with it. And I forgot to mention, like in treatment options, of course you have like medications. And some people probably get help from like SSRIs or medications like that. Anti-epileptic medicine, actually. I read someplace, like I read a study. And there are also other medications which I can't remember the name right now, but it wasn't psychopharmaca. It was a different kind of medication, but it seemed to stop sweating, or at least reduce it. But the problem with medication which you do orally is it works systematically on the body, and that means that it works on the whole body. Like a local treatment like Botox, it only affects basically the area where it's injected. It doesn't have a big effect on the whole organism. While if you take a pill, it works on the whole organism. So it's like systemic and local medications. And that's when you think about like by effects of the medicine. So yeah, some people probably also get help from medications. And also it also depends on why, of course. What is the psychological issue? Is it a psychological issue that you can easily solve, for example, or is it something that's not that easy to solve? Because I think this is both a psychological issue and it's a physical issue. It's a physical issue in that regard that some people have like more active, more like the sweat glands are just more active, like genetically or something. And it's also, of course, since it's more prevalent in social situation, it's also like a psychological social issue, of course. So yeah, so I hope this talk gave you some insight on hyperhidrosis, which is excessive sweating. And I hope I can just mention the website here, which I found some. It's sweathelp.org. It's I just found it, but it seems it's quite informative. It's called the International Hyperhidrosis Society. Wow. Advocacy, research, awareness, education. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay, guys and girls, if you listen to, thank you very much.